Hello there, my name is Bruce Rain from Breakers Creations, and welcome to my live stream. If this is your first time watching, please jump into the chat and say hello. Always like to hear from you folks, and I always like to hear from the regulars as well. So let's just have a little quick look here. Dana, thank you for joining. Trina, Steve, Jeff, Charlie, how else have we got? Oz Retro Comp. Jay is here. I think that's it. If I've missed anyone, hello Philip, welcome to the stream. Let's say thank you for joining. Let me know if there are any issues with the audio or video. I am, as I was in the last stream as well, I'm now using this little lapel microphone, which is now wireless, so I can walk around the joint if I need to. Not that I usually do, but just in case I can. Video and audio good, thank you, awesome. 4 a.m. Philip, okay. Well, I apologise for streaming at the time that I'm streaming, but I guess this is the whole thing with time zones and whatnot. It is currently midday here in Sydney. Obviously, little shout out to my US friends. I hope you're all staying safe. We're hearing some pretty ugly stuff coming through in the news. Now, I'm going to be recapping a Quadra 840AV, but what I wanted to just quickly mention before I get started on that, I promised streams the last weekend. I think I did do a stream last weekend, didn't I? Correct me if I'm... Here was a really funny thing. So when I did my last stream, I had or it might have been the stream before, I can't remember. I had so much stuff to do. I sort of said, oh, look, I'm going to probably be doing a few streams coming up. Now, what ended up happening is that amount of work started getting a little bit, sort of too much. And I was concerned about spending the time doing the live streams rather than, because when I do a live stream, it generally takes me 2 or 3 times longer to get something done than it does if I'm just doing it without the live stream. And I was just concerned that the backlog was just building up and building up. So, but anyhow, just so that people know what we have coming up, I've got not in this video necessarily, but in future streams. This video, it's a Quadra 840AV, as the name suggests. But what I also have coming up is the recapping of a Macintosh Color Classic analog board. I have got a Macintosh Color Classic with a battery damaged logic board, and we're going to see if we can get that working. And the other thing we're going to be doing is a Mystic upgrade, which of course I've already got a video of. If anyone is sort of interested in doing a Mystic upgrade to their Color Classic, I have a video which goes through and details that whole thing. But I have actually had a customer contact me and say, hey, can you please do a Mystic upgrade? So anyhow, before I get started on the 840AV, I wanted to just do something very quickly, which has been in some of the Facebook group chats. I can't remember whether it was Vintage Macintosh or whether it was low-end Mac or something like that. But people have been talking a fair bit about replacement cogs for the eject mechanism of sort of an 800K auto inject, so 800K or super drive auto inject floppy drive. Did the Amiga didn't see that? Yes, so that's the Amiga there. All recapped and working. So those who did watch the stream didn't get to see me actually test it out, and that was because I wasn't sure how I was going to display it. Now, as it turns out, I Good job I have a backup microphone, isn't it? Okay, let's try this one, shall we? Low bat. These are rechargeable 9-volt batteries, and unfortunately, if you leave them for a little while, they don't hold the charge very well. So at least I know what the capability of them is. We may end up just using this backup. Okay, so this is... All right. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Is there anybody out there? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I can see my little thing moving up and down. Okay, so I've got some battery charging to do. Either that or go out and buy non-rechargeable batteries. So I'll have to just keep an eye out for the little slidery thing there. Now, where did I get up to? Okay, I was talking about floppy eject mechanisms. I was just wanting to mention that as we know, the normal eject mechanism of any floppy drive has a cog which commonly fails. Now I'm just going to grab one. I've got a couple of spares floating around here. Here's one. Now this is quite an old one. This is off an 800K floppy drive. Wait a minute. And I'm going to just this one unfortunately has screws holding it together, which I'm now going to undo. Let's go to a little bit of a side view, shall we? How about that then? Now, of course, I've done a video on sort of refurbing a Macintosh auto inject floppy drive, and this is really just a little bit of supplementary bit there. So let's just have a quick look in here in the microscope. Okay. All right. Right. So there's a replacement cog, and I've actually it's got a little bit of grease around it at the moment. Basically, I was buying some cogs from someone I can't remember. There were, I think, links in my video on replacing the cog in these. And I was having to buy them from the States, and with the shipping and everything, they were working out quite expensive per cog. And then I found someone in Australia that started selling them, and it's these green ones here. And I've got a few of them here. Let me just open this up, and we can see. There we go. Aren't they funky? How green they are? Okay, so there's one of these green cogs. We can just get a little bit of focus going on there. Okay, 3D printed, and that's all fine and dandy. Now, the issue that I've been having with these ones that I bought, as I say, from an Australian seller, is that they're not very consistent. And I guess that's something that just happens in 3D printing. When I put them into the drive mechanism, some of them, not all of them, but some of them literally just seize the mechanism up. Now, someone did suggest that if I were to just go back to the seller and say, hey, look, these things aren't working, and they would probably give me a refund. And you're right, they probably would. But I am really not concerned about having to buy things and then send them back and then get replacements and all that sort of stuff. I just need someone that consistently provide me with replacement cogs that I know are going to work. I replace a lot of these old cogs, heaps of them. And so I've found a new seller. Again, it's an Australian one, so for the US folks, this won't necessarily help you that much, but these are the cogs. Now, I haven't had a chance to properly test them out yet, but they look like this. And as you can see, I feel like there's a slightly better definition going on those, on the little teeth of that cog. You know, the hope is that it might actually be a little bit better. I'm going to take this old one off and put the new one on. In she goes. Pop him in there. Just focusing up a little bit. And we put this cog back on. We've got a nice little mechanism going on there. I don't think I got that in. I didn't. Yep. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to throw 12 volts at it and see what it does, see how well it spins, whether these cogs are worth it. And then I'll get on to the 840AV. Okay, so yeah, so I just Philip made mention of the Sennheiser wireless thing that I'm using. It's interesting because I got it for nothing from someone, or very cheap anyway. Two of them, 2 wireless units and 2 bass units. And I used them once or twice for a couple of projects when I was doing some video stuff, doing some interviews and things like that. And then I just put them away. And then I've been doing these live streams for a while, and I thought to myself, I've already got a wireless thing, haven't I? And yeah, I did. All right, let's throw 12 volts at this thing and see what he does. I'm just going to, where are we? That's these 2 pins here. As I say, these are quite different if you're talking about the more modern ones, the super drives. All of the stuff is on top, but on these ones here, I can just put the power through these 2 pins here. Oh, and create a short. Yep, I'm creating a short there. So maybe it's, so I haven't got my glasses on. Well, I mean, I have my glasses on, but I don't have my super magnify ones. So I just need to make sure I put these in the right place. Yeah, it should be right. Negative there, positive there, I would have thought. What's going on? Ah, there we go. Yeah. All right, so let's just try that. That seems to be running nice and smoothly. So that's a good test for that cog. So yeah, anyhow, I will probably put a link in the description for you know, sort of folks who will be who might be looking for someone to supply these cogs in Australia. Again, that in Australia, because that's where I am, and that's where I'm always looking to find the cheapest ones. The cogs work out at around about $5 each. They might have some you know, sort of quantity discounts or something like that, but yeah, they're basically they're $5 a pop. But when I was buying them from the States, they were significantly more expensive than that when I included the shipping and all that sort of stuff. So yes, I mean, what I would love to be able to do is 3D print these myself, and I do intend getting a 3D printer at some stage in the future, but the budget does not quite extend at this time. I'm just taking that cog back out because I will save that up for someone else's computer rather than this one, which is for myself. I can live with a cruddy green one. As I say, you know, some of them were okay, some of them weren't okay. I just want to get consistency when I buy things like that. Right, so just going to put this back together, and then we're going to start on a Quadra 840AV. Now I have Mac 84 Steve, who is in there. He has had a go at recapping his Quadra 840AV a couple of times and has run into a little bit of strife. And what we're going to do today is obviously recap that, but we're also going to see if we can't find out if Steve really is in strife or whether his board is actually okay and he can go in there and get it finished. So buy a can of WD-40 because they tend to vanish. Oh, okay. At least 12, but can't find any of them. Time to order another. Yep, that's always the case with WD-40. I can actually see my can right there. But yes, you're quite right. You know, you take the can of WD-40 somewhere to do a job, to do something, and then you leave it there, and then you can't remember where it was. So yeah. I've talked about the capacitor fairies that come in here and steal all my capacitors, and it's the same with the WD-40 fairies. All right, so recapping. Anyone who's watched my streams before knows that I do a bit of recapping, and when I do, I have cheat sheets. on my website. Link in the description where you can download a PDF or a JPEG of this showing you which capacitors go where. recapamac.com or .com.au, whichever you prefer. So this is the Quadra 840AV board. Now, just to set some early expectations, I don't have a power supply for this. I spoke to the owner of this board. He said, I want you to recap an 840AV for me. And I said, look, that's all fine, but just be aware, I don't have a power supply, which means I will not be able to test it after recapping. If you want me to test it, you will need to bring me the whole computer, or at least send me the power supply as well. And he basically came back and said, all good, I trust you. I trust the work you do. I'm sure it'll be fine. Just go ahead and recap it. Okay, there we go. It's nice to have trust, isn't it? Jay, thank you for putting that up into the stream there. Is it okay to use WD-40 on fans? A really important thing to remember about WD-40, I think it's WD stands for water displacement. Excuse me. It has a very specific purpose. It's designed to be sort of like penetrative and free things up. You know, it helps if you've got rusty cogs and stuff like that. The main ingredient of WD-40, believe it or not, is actually fish oil. I generally don't use WD-40 as a long-term lubricant on something. It's fine for when you're working on cars and trying to get cogs off and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to lubricating things, I tend not to use WD-40 because it is really not, strictly speaking, designed for that purpose. I tend to use, if I'm looking for a very, very fine, refined oil for lubrication, I would use sewing machine oil, which you can, I mean, certainly out here in Australia, you can just buy at the standard supermarket. So that's what I would generally use. And then obviously if it's things like gears and cogs and stuff like that, use a good quality grease, like a lithium grease or was it the silicon grease, something like that. So use a grease for those sorts of things. But anyhow, that's enough of that. I will move on. 840AV board. More of a penetrating oil than a lubricant. That is a very, very succinct way of saying what I just waffled on for the last 5 minutes about. Now, I must say, again, setting expectations for people, I'm not going to be able to test this after recapping. I'm not going to be able to fire it up because I don't have a power supply. Unless, I don't know, can the 660AV power supply work on these? I have no idea. I haven't even looked at the pins to see if they're the same. And I know these draw more power, but as long as I don't do anything silly, they might still work. But I don't know. I've never tried. So if there are any Mac gurus out there that sort of are aware of the interchangeability of power supplies, whether I can use a 660AV power supply to fire this up. If I can't, then obviously there's going to be no firing up. A few things about the 840AV. It has this black board with these dark traces on it, and they do cause, there are a lot of people that really have issues with them because they do make it quite hard to see what's going on the board. No test leaves. Yeah, that's Jay. Jay doesn't like seeing recapping without testing, nor do I, to be quite honest. Having said that, I have had a few issues where I've been forced into not being able to complete a recapping in a single stream because I've had to put some UV solder mask on, which is, involved having to wait for it to cure, or I've had to put it in the ultrasonic cleaner first, and that takes the time to dry it and everything like that. So sometimes in my streams, I don't necessarily get an opportunity to show the completion of it, but at least we can sort of show the recapping of this. We can see what state it's in and all that sort of stuff. So shall I try my 660 AV PSU? Yeah, well, sure, if you want to. Okay, so right, my apologies. I've got a little bit of a frog in my throat. Let's hope it's not COVID. Down here, this little AT&T, that's the digital signal processor chip, which is one of the things, obviously, that the 840AV has. Obviously, that's the AV component of the 840AV. In total, we have, excuse me while I grab my little cheat sheet, we have 13 47 microfarad 16 volt capacitors and two 10 microfarad 16 volt capacitors. I do have someone coming here to get some work done in an hour and 40 minutes. So this stream has to be finished within an hour and 40 minutes. I may well do another stream later in the day today because I still have more work to do down here. But that will be one where I just kind of virtually jump on and go, bang, I'm streaming without any real warning, because I'm just going to be down here and I might just say, you know what, I want some streaming company. Pow. How are you going to test that on a board? Okay. Well, this is the thing that we really do need to find out today. We need to find out whether Steve really does have a short, because we did it based on a particular measurement on the multimeter, which I'm not even 100% certain is correct. And it was, Steve, if you have the chance, if you have the board, can you tell me which capacitor it was? And you were essentially measuring either side of that capacitor and you were getting continuity. And we're thinking, hang on, that doesn't seem right. But maybe it is right. Maybe it's made that way. Maybe we're meant to get continuity across that. So if you can tell me which capacitor it was that you were testing and getting beepity beep beep on the multimeter, and I can test it on here, and then we can see, because this is, as I understand it, a working board. So give it more power. Okay. Let me run downstairs and grab it to be sure. Steve, come on! I thought you were playing along at home. Not prepared. Far out. All right. Okay. Well, in the meantime, let's get started on this and start pulling a few caps off, because that's something that is, just has to be done. As usual, I have my heat shields here, which are my little blades from one of these clicky blade thingies, and I use the blades from those, the metal that can be snapped to different lengths, I use those as heat shields. And then I typically grab some of these little springs like this, and I hook them over the edge so that they stand up and don't fall over. Now, obviously, the main reason for that is to either protect other components or protect plastic on the board from melting. And I can see a nice big piece of plastic in the form of this, oh, you can't see it because the light's so bright, this power supply connector right there. Nice bit of plastic going on there. Yeah, there's a lot of caps on this one. I'm not thrilled about that, but anyhow, we'll have to just move quickly. All right, let's jump across to the microscope view. Here we can see 47 16 volts. Nice when components actually have stuff written on them about what they are, because they don't always. Actually, what we really should do is have a little bit of an observation. God, this dark board, pardon me, doesn't do any favors for the view in the microscope. It stuffs up all the lighting. We've got a little bit of trace rod in there, perhaps. Ooh, is that trace rod there? I don't know if you can see that, but you see, see that blackening? Right there. Right there. Right there. Yep. It's still got copper, so no real issue there. But yeah, we do definitely have signs of capacitor leakage. Oh, look at that lot. Look at all that mottling going on there. That's basically oxidization of the copper, this big copper strip under here. It's not going to really be an issue. It's a huge bit of copper, but excuse me. The board is in hand, and do you remember which capacitor it was? That's the question. What do I think about replacing electrolytics with tantalum capacitors? It is what I do. It is what I am about to do. And the only real issue with that is, as a lot of people have said, is that when a tantalum capacitor fails, it fails quite spectacularly. Having said that, they do fail incredibly rarely as long as they're used within their spec. And one of the classic examples with that is if you look at these vintage boards and you look at the ones, let's say, for example, we take a Quadra 700 compared to a Quadra 840AV. Well, the Quadra 700 had tantalum capacitors on it from the factory, and they don't have any capacitor problems whatsoever. Quadra 840AV has electrolytic capacitors on it from the factory, and here I am having to replace it and sort out all of this leaky corrosion. So I actually think that replacing these electrolytics with tantalums is actually a very good thing in this particular application. I know there are people out there that have issues with tantalums, and that's fine. They want to replace the electrolytics with electrolytics or even polymer capacitors or something like that. No problem. That's up to them. Okay. Dana, hello. Thank you for joining. Other Dana, that is. The other Dana I've already said hello to. Okay, C59, C64, C69, C75, C76. I knew they were all on the 5-volt rail there. So let's try it out. I'm going to grab my multimeter. You may not hear it as well because I've got this lapel mic, which I don't know if you're going to hear the beepity beep. We can try it, huh? Put these two together and go beep. I can say hello to the other Dana twice if I want. I have done that before, you know. There are times when I welcome people to the stream more than once. That's because of this old brain. Right, so let's look at these numbers before they disappear off the chat. C59. Oh, wow, I need spectacles. I need some spectacles. Can't see. I can't find my magnifying glasses. So, all right. I'll have to just do this with the nude eye. Oh, wow. Little numbers. C59. There's a C59. Let's go. Tappity tap tap. Let's go on either side of that. There's, well, let's just see. C59. And we look at the rot. Look at the trace rot around there. You're in luck, Steve. It's meant to do that. So, what's the moral to the story? Time for you to get back and finish recapping that 840AV. Right, so we've got to get some of these caps off. I am going to do that now. Okay. Just move a few things here. This is a large-ish board. People have often asked me, hey, what ultrasonic cleaner should I use or buy that will fit all Macintosh boards? Nope. I haven't found one. If you're talking about, say, a Quadra 840AV board like this one, this is about the same size as a 2CI board or a 2VX or 2VI, you know, 2CX. This can go into my 10-litre ultrasonic cleaner in 2 halves. You do one side, then you do the other. And then, but if you start talking about a Quadra 900 board, they're big. And most of the ultrasonic cleaners within my price range anyway, as they get bigger, they don't get bigger in a way that works for large flat things like computer circuitry, computer logic boards. I've gone with a 10-litre one because it cleans most of them. You know, I can use it on most of them, but I can't fit a Quadra 900 or a Quadra 950 or a Mac 2 or a Mac 2X or a Mac 2FX in it. Rather frustrating, but that's just how it is. Right, now I'm worried that I'm going to start hitting this, so I might move it a little bit further down. There we go. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so, God, it's taking me a long time to get to this, isn't it? Waffling away. Look at this. Half an hour gone already. I haven't got a single cap off the board. And let's start doing that. Melting supply. Oh man, that stinks. Oh, that smells bad. So I've got quite a bit of leaked electrolyte under this. And as I hit it with the hot air station, it is burning and it is releasing a foul odor. I also noticed that on this board we have component adhesive. So that's basically where these components get stuck onto the board and then they get soldered. And they're those little dots that you can't see because capacitors fell in front. There we go. So those 4 off. These little dots here, that's component adhesive there. It's red stuff. It's very handy for certain tasks, but I don't want it here because when I stick a new component on, when I stick a new component on, I want it to sit flush on the board. I don't want it sitting on top of some component adhesive. Oh God, that stinks. Oh, far out. Not very nice, no. Now, I'm in focus there, but I'm not quite in focus here, so let me just twiddle with my doodads. There we go. Right. First 4 caps off. Let's move on to this little guy. Hey there, little fella. 10 microfarads, 16 volts, sitting next to a fuse. I'm going to try not to get heat on these fuses because they do have a tendency to fall apart. That big flat metal thing on the right hand side is a fuse. It's a self-repairing fuse. So when it blows, it will unblow. It'll work again. So, hey. This little guy down here is a diode. And I actually really don't like those particular types that are little cylinders like that. Because you hit a bit of hot air nearby them and then they just roll off the board. Annoying. Usually buckets with high voltage retaining the original extra headroom. Yeah, Fizbin, just answering your question there. So, there generally is nothing wrong with going up a voltage. So if we've got 16 volts, maybe go up to 25 volts, something like that. You know, as I say, if as I said, looking for like a bit of extra headroom in what the sort of capacitor allows, I generally replace these with the original ratings. They all seem to work fine. Are you done yet? Hello, Mike. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining Mike's Mac Shack. Don't forget, giveaway on Mike's Mac Shack. Dun, 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 dun. Jump onto Mike's Mac Shack and subscribe and find out about the giveaway. Mike, you can give the details. I'm actually planning on having a giveaway soon too. I've got a graphics card that I don't need. It's only a cheapie, but I thought, I may as well give it away. I don't need it. It's still in the box. Still brand spanking new. It's ATI, what is it? No, hang on, what is it? It's a AMD something or other. It's metal compatible, so that's nice. So I will probably be doing that maybe once I get to 2,000 subscribers. I just hit 1,400 the other day. Thank you everyone for making that, helping me get across the line with that rather huge momentous occasion. 1,400 subscribers. Okay, Mike is giving away an iBook G4. So there you go. He's got a link in there. So if you want to be part of that giveaway, click on the link. 4 caps in a row has got to make it easy. Yes, it does. Okay. Too many volts. Yeah, better too many volts than not enough. It's the rating of the capacitor, not what it works on. Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be going, if it's something like 10 microfarads, you don't want to stick a 20 microfarad in there. You've got to stay on that. So the 2 ratings on a capacitor are the capacitance rating and the voltage rating. And so the voltage rating is essentially designed as a maximum. So if you're going to be running, 10 volts through a capacitor, you would go with a higher one. Say you go for a 16. To make sure that it is higher than the volts that are going through it. And that's generally what they do with their designing boards. But you can go up. You don't want to go up too far because it can affect the ESR of that capacitor, which stands for resistance. I must look that up and try and memorize it one day, what ESR stands for. Interestingly enough, one of the computers I really would love to own is an 840AV. I don't have one. I really wish I had one, because I used to work with one when I used to work in a design studio, and I loved them. They were just so fast. I remember when we got the 840AV, it was just like, oh man, this thing is incredible. Jump into Photoshop and do an unsharp mask or something on an image, and it would just go, it's like, wow, this thing is just so quick. And I just love them. They were just, I mean, apart from how annoying they are to get the logic board out, they were just fantastic. So, yeah, I would love to own one, but of course they just go for silly money these days. I'm just not a big fan of having to pay ridiculous amounts of money for them. I mean, I get they're rare, okay, fair enough, but when it comes to this sort of hobby, certainly from my perspective, you can't be going out and spending ridiculous amounts of money on all these computers, because, you know, you just go broke. I've got so many of these things. Tom Barber, welcome to stream. Thank you for joining. Okay, yep, that's it. Is it safe to replace a 47 volt with a 50 volt, or would 25 be? I would say 25 would be preferred, Steve, rather than a 50 volt. As I say, generally what is said, depending on the purpose, depending on the application of the capacitor, generally what is said is that the larger the chasm of that voltage, it can actually increase the ESR of the capacitor. Now, you'd probably be fine, but, and this is just what people have said to me, okay? People way smarter than I am have said that, you know, you don't want to go up in the voltage too far. But, okay. Exploding system result. Yeah, see, I've got to look up the proper thing one day, so, because my chat is just basically full of people coming up with funny different terms that ESR could be. Electro something resistance, yeah. Specific resistance? I can't remember. Come on, you guys have got Google there. Come on. You trying to work on that? Yeah, well, actually, just something that Oz Retro Comp said there, and this is the situation that I have all the time, and that is I worked in this studio with these computers, and of course when they disposed of them, if I'd have said, hey, can I have it, which I did sometimes. I got quite a few computers from my employer, and a laser printer. I just, you know, when they sort of had passed their usefulness, and they, you know, they were sort of getting rid of them, it's like, oh, can I have it? And a lot of the time they did let me have it. I don't want to lose these diodes that are sitting above this capacitor, but I can't be bothered putting any more heat shields in. Hey, there we go. Okay, now, have a go at that. Look at it. Far out. How good does that look? I think this one might need a clean. What do you think? Oh, caramba. When they're this bad, I generally don't like testing them before cleaning them. It's a bit of a worry. So, yeah, I think of all the computers that I could have potentially owned if I'd have hung on to them. I mean, even my home computer. I mean, the main computer that I used, you know, back in the day at home was a Macintosh 2 that had been upgraded to have the super drive capability, and you could put more RAM into it and stuff like that. It was a Mac 2, and I threw it away. Crazy person. I mean, when I say threw it away, gave it to like recycling, but I wish I'd kept it. I would have had an opportunity to have a 2CI, a 2CX, a few SE30s. I mean, I've got quite a few of these things now. I've actually collected them. I've got an SE30, I've got a 2CI. You know, I could have had an 840AV, I could have had an 800, I could have had a 900, 950, several 950s. I had so many power computing Macs at one stage. I had a shed absolutely full of them, and they all worked, and I used to run them as a render farm for 3D images. So, I had, you know, Power Wave, Power Tower. I had some of the Daystar ones and the Motorola ones. I had some of those clones of, you know, 604E PowerPC chips. The PowerPC 604Es. I had a dual processor one in there as well. I mean, if I'd have just kept them, I'm such a fool. You know, you just start looking at these and you think, when am I ever going to need these? I've got such faster computers. When I got my G5 and I was able to do 3D rendering on that one computer faster than a whole shed full of, render nodes, I said, I don't need these anymore, and I got rid of them all. Oh, dear. Oh, the humanity. Okay. I think we're getting close to, well, I think we've got maybe 2 or 3 more caps. They're spread all over this board. All over the place. So I need a little shield for this one because we're butting right up against some plastic. Need a little one. Here's a little one. There we go. Sorry, that's a little bit off camera there. This board is limiting where I can put it because of its size. I just want to check. It's about to blow. Come on, there we go. I want to check something here because come on. I've actually no, sorry, I've just lost my thread. Oh yeah, I want to check just what the customers said about this because I assume it works. It's got all these ugly traces, but I assume it works because he was saying, if it doesn't work, I mean, obviously I'd need to test it. Let me just have a look here. Here we go. Oh, nice little compliment in there. What did you say? Okay. Been in storage for about 5 years and was working when it went in. I tried to boot it a couple of months ago and there was no video, but I was using a third-party untested VGA adapter. I don't remember if it booted. I've just checked the board and I think I see the slightest signs of corrosion. Yeah, just slight. Around 1 or 2 caps, but the board looks otherwise pristine. It's amazing what a microscope will show you. In the Sydney CBD, So, yeah, well, it's not pristine, I can tell you that for sure. So I'm actually a little bit concerned with the state of this, the fact that I won't get an opportunity to test it because, and I'll probably let them know that. I'll say, look, I found some really bad corrosion on this. I've recapped it, cleaned it, but I really would like to test it. So, I mean, I could probably make up a power supply from a, sort of a PC power supply. All right. Continuing. Off we come. It is funny the way you can look at a board and go, oh wow, look, that looks great. And then you get under a microscope and you just see all of this stuff. I mean, that's all trace corrosion there, all those little black dots. So at a glance you look at it and go, oh, this thing's pristine, but it ain't. Right, okay. Nice fellow came to my door and gave me a pizza. It's always nice when they do that, isn't it? So System 7.6 came out. Okay, interesting. Yes, I do remember when in the early days of, where are we? 6100. 6100, is that's, I've got one here. Or is that a 610 I have? 6100 is a what sort of CPU is in a 6100? Please remind me, Mike. Got rid of, yes, I know. Think of all the hardware I got rid of. It makes me sad. I'm in the same boat. Yes, there is that whole thing about how many computers can you actually hang on to and maintain a relationship. That's the question, especially when you don't have basement. Do the buddies approve? 601. Okay, so it's an early G3, correct? So yeah, and of course, I think in the early operating systems, they weren't utilizing the G3s. Oh no, 601, that's not a G3. That's a PowerPC. So we went 601, then we went like 603 and 604. Yeah, okay. I'm getting totally mixed up now. I've got a bit of a black spot when it comes to that part in Apple history. But yeah, okay, so it was the first of the PowerPC, but obviously not a G3. So yeah, so that's 601. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Okay. I'm with it now. I'm with it. I know exactly what we're talking about. And yes, and so I think in the early operating systems they weren't utilizing the PowerPC, and that's why they weren't performing as well until later operating systems came out to properly utilize the PowerPC CPUs. I think I'm correct in saying that. Apologies for all my brain farts today. It was a very late night last night. That's why I'm a little nasally. Okay, I think that's all of them. Just going to have a quick checkaroonie on this board. Let's just zoom that out a little bit. My ugly, messy workstation here. And I don't see any more little capacitors on here. So it is now time for that joyous job of cleaning. Yeah, okay. Good old PDS. Yep. I actually have a 6100, which I recapped in a video, and it was quite funny because it didn't really need recapping. It had some corrosion on it, but it didn't really need recapping. I just did it because I was bored, wanted something to do. And I had all these people suddenly contacting me going, hey, does a 6100 need recapping? And I sort of, because I think there are all these people with 6100s terribly nervous about having to recap. And I said, no, doesn't need recapping. I did mine because I was bored, but it doesn't need it. However, I did find some really ugly corrosion on my board, which I was able to clean up. Flux on the board. What's flux, I hear you say? You would only say that if you haven't watched my streams before. Flux is designed to stop the oxidization of the solder when I put it on there. And I use it to help clean these pads. I add a little bit of new solder. I add a little bit of flux. I give those a little bit of a gentle rub. And then I grab some solder wick, which is braided copper with a little bit of flux in it. And I use that to soak up the old solder and new solder and clean the pads. And in the end, they should come up looking squeaky clean. Oops, what's that? It's a little bit of something there. Okay. I apologize for the flariness. As I say, what happens with this board, because it's dark, when I have bright things next to it, like these pads, it kind of flares out a bit. You see, if I put this in here to help the brightness adjust, it looks a lot better. But there we go. You can see those pads are looking shiny. I think this is one of the reasons, Jay, if you're still floating around, we've talked about the whole situation with your microscope and not happy with the picture and all that sort of thing. I think that's one of the reasons why you do have problems with your picture, is because you work largely on these old Mac or new Mac boards, which are all black. And then the automatic brightness of the camera just gets upset. Now, you do have manual controls to get around that, but yeah, that's just my thinking. Okay, so there's one. We've got 4 here in a row. These are the first ones I took off. Let's get these cleaned up. Get some flux in place here. And I'm just reading the chat here. Bear with me a minute. Yeah, Steve, it's time to get a new microscope. I implore you, first opportunity you get, I would request a new microscope. Because I love watching your streams, but I get driven crazy by that little 640 by 480 image where I'm looking at it and I'm going, hey, you've still got stuff on the pad there. And you're going, no, there isn't. I go, I can see it. And it's only because of the lousy microscope image. In actual fact, your pads are sparkling clean. Well, so you say. I assume they are sparkling clean. Oh, out of camera, sorry. Ow! Ow, ow, ow. Just jabbed my finger with the RAM slots. All right. The microscope funds went somewhere. Yeah, I wonder where they went. My apologies for missing your stream yesterday, Steve. I really did want to see it. As soon as I get some spare time, I'll watch it probably tomorrow while I'm working, I would think. Because it is Monday tomorrow for us here in the Down Underland. Yes, so Steve's been bargain hunting at e-waste places, or an e-waste place. And he came back with lots of cool and groovy things. And he's staying relatively tight-lipped about how much money he spent. I respect that. I will continue asking him, but I will respect it. Now we're going to have to do some UV solder mask on this. You can see that I've got some traces that are getting exposed because these traces aren't in a particularly good condition. And so I am going to need to UV solder mask it. I'm going to have to use green stuff on it because I don't have black stuff. I do have some clear stuff, but that stuff takes donkey's years to dry. I mean, look at how shocking this is. I've got to clean this up. I have got to clean it up. Okay. Oh, I'm sending you images. Okay, excuse me, I'm just catching up on the chat here. That's why I've gone silent. Wow, there's been a lot. JD's slacking. Yeah, he's off playing darts or something. Jay always says to me, he says, oh, look, you need to stream at a particular time. I can give you all the attention in the world after a certain time. That's what he says. So today I stream after that time. And he just comes in, says hello, and then leaves. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Look at this. Look at the sponge here. So I'm just taking the coating off, which is quite thick, I might add. I could just leave it, but generally I like to try and halt this process, halt this corrosion process that's going on with this copper, clean that corrosion off, coat it, I'll be much happier for years to come. Okay. Can turn green ones into brown ones by leaving them out in the sun. Not sure I want to do that, but nice to know. All right, so I'm going to coat this copper now with a bit of solder. So I'm going to grab some solder on the end of my soldering iron. I'm going to grab my wick. I'm going to get that solder onto the wick. And I'm going to just gently rub. And that's going to just give a nice thin solder coating onto that trace. And then I can see all these little black bits that need to be cleaned up here.
Oh, my blade looks like it might need replacing. Yep. Let's grab a new blade, shall we? Won't that be fun? Won't it? Look at this, I'm an hour down. Wow. I have to start stepping it up here, don't I? Speed recapping. Right. It's Saturday night in the US, I believe, at the moment. So, you know, let's face it, no one has anything to do on a Saturday night other than sit and watch live streams. I mean, come on. Come on. Okay, so here is the problem we obviously have with this. I've got exposed traces that are going to need mask on them. So that's always a pain when it comes to the live streams, and I'll tell you why. I have to wait for that mask to dry. I can sometimes do it quite quickly in the sunlight, but yeah, piffle. I may not even be able to finish this recapping in this stream. Won't that be disappointing? Come for the recapping, get gypped. What on earth is that? Something just fell down. Excuse me 1 minute. I'll be right back. I've got my wireless microphone so I can talk as I go. Who knows? Something definitely fell down, but I don't know what it was. Uh-oh, low battery, I think. Let's just check. I think I have the ability to check the battery here, don't I? Or maybe not. Oh, anyhow, the sound could just stop as usual, and then I'll just have to switch over to my other microphone, so my apologies. Yes, I mean, it could well be a chicken, I don't know. For those who aren't aware, I do have chickens in my backyard. So I'm going to just do a little preemptive thing here, because this little light is going blinkety blink blink. And rather than just be in a situation where I am in the middle of talking and I go silent, I'm going to switch on my backup microphone, like this. Bing! Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Is that sound okay? I have just switched over microphones. I am now wholly on this microphone here, so please let me know if that sounds okay. I may have to talk a little bit louder, but as I say, I don't want to just suddenly go silent and then have everyone going, "Oh, I can't hear anything." Sounds okay. Just okay. I wanted better than okay. Okay. Okay, we've got to speed this up. Speeding it up. Sounds terrific. Awesome. Repetition. That is what recapping is all about. It is about removing caps, cleaning pads, replacing caps. Sounds like fresh solder, a whole Rossmann of flux, and a Happy Mac chime all rolled into one. Oh, that's nice. We can see we've got a regular viewer in Dana there, knowing about a Rossmann of flux. Oh dear. Cleaning that up. That's a nice easy one for replacement. What have I got over here? Where's the other little one? So I'm sure there were two little ones on this. I don't remember taking two little ones off, but you know. Oh, there they are. Oh, one. Huh? Huh? What? Huh? One. What? What? You seriously? Oh. Look. See what I see? Do you see what I see? A cap has fallen off the board. There used to be a capacitor there, and it has liberated itself from the board without any assistance from me. When you don't like my singing, Dana, come on. How can you say that? Don't want to hurt my feelings. Come on. Missed my calling. Okay, so as I said, I didn't remember actually removing the second one of those small caps, and that's because I didn't remove it. It had fallen off the board all by itself. So because I didn't actually count them as I was removing them. Just working our way through the cleaning process here. Just realised I don't have my fan going in the background, so I'm just here getting all these fumes right in my face. I might turn the fan off. Okay. It's his actual day job. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Oh boy. Wow. Yeah. It is actually it is one of my little life adventures that I did actually sing in a band at one stage, but I was terrible. So I stopped. Once again, just cleaning up these traces. They've got a lot of blackening there. Don't want to have that. Don't want nasty blackening. Okay, all right. Sorry, I just keep getting distracted by the chat. What we have to remember, for people who may or may not know this, I actually spend quite a lot of time, probably more than I should, as a matter of fact, chatting to some of the people in the chat. You know, actually on sort of voice chats. Usually, sort of my afternoon, but in the people I speak to in the US, it's usually their very, very, very early morning or late night, depending on how you want to look at it. And yeah, we have a tendency to just talk really silly things a lot, and some of that now it makes its way into the chat. Just going to have a quick look here and see how we're doing here. We're currently looking at 28 concurrent viewers. I thank you to all of you people who are watching. As I said at the beginning of the stream, if you missed it, if you are new, or even actually if you're not new, if you're a regular, and you haven't jumped on and said hello in the chat, please jump on and say hello. Always like to hear from folks. We are recapping a Quadra 840AV, as the description says. It was sent to me by a customer who pretty much said that he looked at the board and it looked more or less pristine. And what we're showing here is that, oh wow, I've got a delay. What we're basically seeing here is that
it wasn't pristine at all. There was a huge amount of corrosion, damage traces. A component had actually fallen off the board all by itself. So, yeah, very, very far from pristine. And that's, I guess, the moral to that story is get your old computers recapped, because they are killing themselves, basically. They are just dying. You put something like this away in storage, it is just going to get worse and worse and worse. So, I'm going to say it again. Bruce does a wicked Kermit. When did I do a Kermit? Arnold impersonation. Yeah, so the ones, I guess the one that I'm probably, let's say, the one that I'm known for, let's say I don't necessarily do a good one, is for anyone who is a Family Guy watcher, Herbert, the old guy. The one that talks like this. Looky here. Look at that muscly arm paper boy. It's not coming out very well today, I'm afraid, so. Hope you brought me some good news. But I tell you what, if you want to hear a good Arnold impression, Dana does stuff. That's one of the stuff he does. He does a great Arnold impersonation. But yes, basically when we get together and chat, that's the main thing we do, is Arnold impersonation. Hi all, Kermit the Capacitor here. Oopsie. I have to say, I'm not a particularly good impersonator in general. No harm in trying though. Right, okay. Yes. Okay, we are just working our way through the cleaning here as I talk nonsense. Okay. Oh, another one here. God, they're just spread all over the board, these things. It drives me bonkers. I'm going to get rid of that. That stuff. What do you call it? Component adhesive. Off she comes. I was just wondering where Paperboy was. Okay. How am I going for time? Ooh, got 50 minutes left. 50 minutes. Can I do it? I don't know if anyone noticed there, or probably not because it's off camera, but while I was doing that, my wick stuck to the pad. That's one of the things you need to be super careful of, that if you do end up with wick stuck to the pad, you don't yank it. You apply heat and melt it off again. Because otherwise you'll tear a pad off. As easy as that. Do a better Australian accent than most? Yes, probably. There are lots of different types of Australian accent. I mean, even some of them you may not notice a difference, but obviously you'd notice a difference between someone talking to you like I am now compared to perhaps how Steve Irwin would talk, or Crocodile Dundee. I'll tell you, there was a particular product, obviously a product made in the US or something like that, that they were selling out here in Australia. And it was a type of desk that you stand up at, so it's a desk, a standing desk. So when you want to work, you stand up rather than sitting down. And when they brought it out here, they brought it out with a TV commercial. Now,
I don't know how this came about, but the voiceover in that ad was someone who must have convinced whoever that they were able to do a convincing Australian accent. So here they are selling this product to Australians with someone, I assume an American, doing an Australian accent. And it was the funniest commercial. I really wish I had recorded it and kept it, because it was hilarious listening to this person do a really bad Australian accent. Obviously, he managed to convince the marketing people of that company that his Australian accent was flawless or something, but it was terrible. So, yeah, that always made me laugh when that ad would come on. I'd be going, come and listen to the ad, listen to the way this guy talks. I'm just a bit puzzled how the board's solder mask has turned brown from being green originally. Yes, that's actually, as Oz Retro Comp has said, on the 840AV, they had this black and brown board with incredibly thin little traces. And that's why we have this colour. So, alright, let's just have a quick look. I'm just going to do a quick little stock take here, because I think I may have got them all. 1, 2. No. I haven't. Got them all, that is. Oh, GT, hello. Thank you for joining the stream. I'm afraid it's more of the same from me here today, which is basically just taking old capacitors off and putting new capacitors on. Nothing particularly interesting in this one. Rather frustratingly, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I did a live stream, and then I did a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't live stream. And the stuff that I didn't live stream turned out really interesting. Rather unexpectedly, I had an SE30, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to stream another SE30, for goodness sake. People will just think that's all I do. And then when I actually went to work on it, it had a really unusual problem that I fixed. So, and I was like, oh man, this would have made a great stream. So, yeah. What are you going to look? Yes, you are correct. This 840AV board is from Ireland. That's where it is, I think, assembled, they say. It's written on the board here. Assembled in Ireland. So, yes, that is correct. Right, let's try that again. Counting removed capacitors. That is 1, no, that's not 1, 2, 3. Hold a minute, hang on. 4, 5, 6. I've still got 2 that I haven't done yet. God. Goodness me. And now everyone's upset. Melting solder is sexy. Yeah, sort of. I do actually get quite a lot from this. I do get a lot of enjoyment from doing this sort of stuff. Just partially from, just I like using my hands. I like, doing work using my hands. But I also like making old computers last longer. If we take an 840AV like this, let's think of what are some of the things you could do with an 840AV once fixed. I mean, it was a powerhouse of a computer at the time. If you were to run a period-specific operating system on it, there's a whole range of games that you could play on it. Probably get a bit of Wolfenstein 3D happening. I was a big fan of Civilization. I love Civilization. The old Sid Meier's Civilization. Great, great fun game. I could lose hours and hours and hours on that. Okay. This one is really nasty. It's a huge, big piece of copper here, so I mean it's you know pretty safe, but I just want to try and clean it up a little. I'm not necessarily going to go all out on the thing, but just want to get it looking a little bit better. Okay, so and I've got, there was one more, wasn't there? Yeah, this one here. It's coming at from a bit of an angle here. Yeah, Swiss cheese tracer, indeed. I've got a couple of jobs here at the moment that are sort of driving me a little bit bonkers. I've got a Macintosh Color Classic, which is it works. You know, start it up, but if you shut it down and then you try and switch it on again within about probably 4 seconds of shutting it down, it doesn't start up. You have to reset it, which is a kind of weird problem. If you leave it longer than that, it starts up fine. And it only does it with that logic board, so it's not the power supply. I suspect it is something related to the sound chip, because they are one of the areas that gets the most damage on those Color Classics. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, Peter. I think we did discuss the correct way to pronounce your name. My apologies if I make a meal of it. This one this is a board that was sent to me, and ultimately they said that it was in pristine condition, and we can clearly see that it is not in pristine condition. So, okay. Okay, so I think I have them all off and cleaned. This is now the third time I've said that, but I do believe I have got them all off now. And just to refresh people on what I mean about the state of this. I mean, here's some horrendous corrosion going on around this this capacitor that was there. So yeah, no doubt about the fact it's got leakage. As I said, moral to the story: get the boards recapped. Get your old boards recapped. It's very, very important. I spend quite a lot of time on a lot of those forums, you know, or user groups, you know, enthusiast groups on Facebook. That's probably the main thing I do on Facebook these days, is just look through enthusiast groups. And of course, you get a number of times you get people saying, you know, hi, I'm new to this group. Thanks for letting me join. I have a Macintosh Classic and it doesn't start. Can anyone tell me why? And I gotta tell you, everyone does get a little bit tired of saying caps. You gotta replace the caps, because it is just, it's, you know, I mean, it's almost like it should be some sort of welcome greeting they get when they join one of these groups. Do you have one of these computers? It will need to have its capacitors replaced if you haven't done it already. Oh, that's no good, GT. I hope you've been able to stay safe under the circumstances. Things are clearly getting a little bit ugly. I have been seeing on the news. Okay. All right. Have I actually got them all now? There are 13 in total. So was that right? No, there are 15 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Let's just say 15. I don't see one that hasn't been cleaned, so I think it's because they're spread all over the board. They're bloody hard to count. You can't tell whether you've counted the same one twice. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And there's got to be a 15 here somewhere. Because then I can say 15. But I'm not quite there yet. Yeah, I'll use my cheat sheet. This will help. 2. Yeah, I found the other one. Okay, we're good. We can start recapping, putting new caps on. I had to buy some more caps the other day. I was running very, very low on 47 microfarad 16 volt. And I didn't want to be in a situation where I couldn't recap someone's work. I'm going to start with the 10 microfarad 16 volt, which are the little ones. So we're going to do that now. Just keeping in mind that when I go to put some of these caps on, I may end up not putting them on to some of them and just using some UV solder mask on those first, because I've got a lot of exposed traces and I don't want to accidentally create a short circuit, a short to ground, by accidentally getting a little bit of solder onto an exposed trace or something like that. So, what is that? Okay, some sort of waspy thing. Repair. Philip, thanks for joining. Sorry I wasn't able to finish before you headed off to sleep, but I totally get the fact that it is very late in some parts of the world. Dana asked, why not ultrasonic the board before a recap? I gave him my 2 cents. It might be nice info to mention in your actual video as well. Thank you for saying that. Yes, and well, there are a couple of things. First of all, whenever I work on these boards, I cover them in flux. And that flux needs to be cleaned off. So it's going to have to be ultrasonically cleaned when I finish. So if I clean it before, I'm going to have to clean it. Then I'm going to have to recap it. And then I'm going to have to clean it again. And that's sort of, there's, kind of double handling and stuff like that. And the more it gets clean, the more we're likely to, end up sort of with, sorry, I just bumped the microphone there. Some of these stickers and stuff might end up getting all of the ink taken off them and things like that. Anyhow, so one is mainly because I don't want to have to clean it twice. But the other is that in particular, if you're working with damage on boards, the muck often tells you where the damage is. If you clean that away, you have a little bit of trouble then, sort of going back saying, where were the problems? So leaving the muck on the board can basically tell you where problems exist. I can look around here and see all this gunk and go, you know what, that's probably where the problem is. So, just catching up on the chat here very quickly. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. There are obviously, this is just in response to Peter's statement there about sort of power supply, capacitor leakage and stuff like that. I get computers where I power supplies where I open them up and they are absolutely perfect. The capacitors are still testing within range. There's no leakage or anything like that. And then other ones you get them and there are just clusters of leaky capacitors in there. I guess it probably has to do with when those capacitors were made, because there was a thing called the, what was it called? The capacitor plague, when there were a whole bunch of capacitors being made that were bad. They were incorrectly made. And that. But when it comes to these surface mount electrolytic capacitors, this is basically just to do with age. There really isn't anything sinister going on with these. They're just old, and that's why they need to be replaced. Whoops. Right, let's jump across to the microscope and start putting some of the new capacitors on. I have here a 10 microfarad 16 volt capacitor. You can see the 106, which means 10 followed by 6 zeros. and that gives you the measurement in picofarads, which when you translate it into microfarads is 10 microfarads. So there is some sense to those numbers on the capacitors. It's not just someone making numbers up. Okay, so I am coming at this at the completely wrong angle. I'm going to just try and do this maybe like that angle there. And so I can hold this with my left hand with the tweezers. I can position it there so that I've got some pad on either side. I've got my stripe facing. Come on, don't be like that. I've got my stripe facing the positive, that's because tantalum capacitors have the stripe on the positive side, unlike electrolytic capacitors that have the stripe on the negative side. There we go. That is joined on there. Yeah, corporate espionage at its worst back then. Yeah, basically someone took off with a incorrectly copied formula for electrolyte, and then went and started manufacturing capacitors. Clever. Another cap there. These are the little ones. 2 little ones, the rest 13 big ones. I've got to say, I'm a little bit hungry. I haven't had lunch. And of course I have someone coming here. I am replacing an iPhone 5S battery for someone. They're popping in, and I'm going to do that for them because that's one of the things that I do. Okay, just looking at this, people are just chatting amongst themselves. That's good. It saves me from having to do stuff. If people do at any stage have any questions for me, please drop them in the chat. If I don't answer them, it's because I've potentially missed them. You know, when I look through the chat, I do scan it, and sometimes I miss ones, which I have done before. Yeah, so feel free to jump in with any questions. Like, for instance, you might just say, hey, what are those 2 red blobs on the board? That is component adhesive. And often what happens with these boards when they are making them, they do a little test splodge of the component adhesive in an innocuous place on the board somewhere. They just go and put some component adhesive down to see that it's squirting properly, because they're all done obviously by a machine. Yeah, I've done a few 5S batteries as well. I mean, I do a few, you know, sort of phone battery replacements. Always like to keep the old ones. Nice. Yeah, so got a few here actually. But yeah, the 5S is fine. It's not a particularly difficult one to do. There are worse ones out there, that's for sure. But I can totally understand why people don't necessarily want to do it themselves. Whoopsie. All right, let's continue replacing capacitors. We've done the 2 10 microfarad 16 volt. Let's move on to the 47. 47 microfarad 16, 13 of them on this board. Moving along. Got half an hour left, folks. Well, potentially less. He might turn up early. Okay. Oh, that wasn't the capacitor fairies. That was me dropping it. All right. On goes a cap. I'll put these ones over here. Don't want to lose them. Now, keep an eye on it. If you see the capacitor fairies coming to take those away, let me know. Oh. Tristan, did I say hello to you? Hello, Tristan. All right. Okay. Let us continue. Will the iPhone battery replacement be done live? Probably not. And that is mainly to do with the fact that the person who is getting the battery replaced is going to be here waiting for them. So I am going to want to get it done as quickly as possible. And so I don't want him to have to wait while I waffle on during a live stream. Waffle. And just a reminder to a few people here that they do sometimes watch my streams and they ask me questions like, hey, what temperature setting is your soldering iron on, and stuff like that. And the fact is that I use my soldering iron on virtually the hottest temperature it will set to, which is 400 and I use 450, but I think 460 is the highest. And I regulate the amount of heat on the board by actually how much time I have the iron on the board. So I tend, a lot of people would say 450 or 460 or whatever Celsius is too hot. But as I say, I only have the iron on the board for very short periods of time, so I kind of regulate the temperature with the speed that I solder at. If you're a beginner, I would recommend probably going with a lower temperature than that, because if you're spending a lot of time with the iron on the board, you're likely to potentially lift some pads, because the heat does often make the adhesive soften, and then the pads can lift. Yep, okay. Do you have a way of testing a 5500 board? 6360, 6400, 6500, 55. No, they're the all-in-one units, aren't they? Correct me if I'm wrong. Those ones are all they're like the screen on top. They're like they're a gigantic compact Mac. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure they are. The closest I have to that is like an LC 580 or Performer 580 or something like that, and I don't think they're the same. I can't remember what the board looks like of those. I'd have to have a look. I don't get many of those, to be honest, or any. I just realised I've got to move this out of the way because I've got very little room on the other side of this capacitor to get a soldering iron in. There we go. And look, what am I going to do here? Look at that. Desktop. Yes, no, unfortunately, I don't have one of those. A means of testing it. I mean, I will get one eventually. I mean, I buy things like that when I can because I do like to have them around for testing. But I'm afraid I don't actually have one at the moment. I think it needs your touch. I'd be more than happy to have a look at it. I mean, often I can see what the problem is when I just have a look at the board. So now I've just changed soldering iron tip to this one here, which will allow me to hopefully get in here, get a little bit of heat to where I need it. So, look at that. I just need to push that down. Neat. Okie dokie. Let's now take this out. So this is one of the reasons why I really like this soldering iron. I really like these T12 tips, is that you can take them out while they're hot. They're hot up this end, but they're not hot down here. So you can swap your tips while the thing is hot, and that's really, really convenient for what I do. Okay. Oh yeah, and I have that switched off, Jay. So anyone who owns a Hacko FX951 knows that when you take the tips out, it goes beep, 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 and really annoying. But it is something you can switch off. So I have switched that off because I don't like it. I don't like being beeped at like that. So we're moving along, moving along. Here we go. Keep the pace, come on. So that iron tip is a life hack. That hot iron tip is actually designed that way. If we just have a look at this under the microscope, I know it looks like I've just taken a conical tip and bent it, but in actual fact, this is a designed that way bent tip. And a lot of people like using them because they have this, when you look at this area here, you've got a fine point on the end there, but then this area here is quite a large flat area where you can transfer a lot of heat to where you need it. But yeah, as I say, it does look like I just took a normal tip and bent it, but it is actually made that way. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different types of tip for my soldering iron. I don't use all of them, but every now and again I might say want to get a huge amount of heat somewhere, maybe melting a really large bit of solder, and I might use one of these, like a great big fat thing like that, which has a way of getting huge amounts of heat where you want it, or this guy here, a great big massive bevel tip. But you know, you have the different tips for the different tasks that you have. But the most important thing is making sure you get heat where you need it. And look, I said I have to go speed up, and look, I'm stopping, just stopping and chatting. What's going on? Okay, this one looks all right. What about this one? This one looks all right. When I say it looks all right, what I'm looking out for is any opportunity where I might actually put a capacitor down and the pin of the capacitor might accidentally touch an exposed trace, a trace that I've exposed during this cleaning process. I do have examples of it on this board. When I get there, I'll point it out. But these ones here, I can stick on without any trouble. This one's got a trace running right down the middle, but it hasn't been exposed, and it is right down the middle, so it's not likely to get touched by anything. So, I'll try again. Question: I've had some trace mask burn off while cleaning nearby pads. Is it okay to just leave them tinned, or must they be coated? It depends on whether there is a risk of them being put in contact with something else. So, and this is what I'm actually talking about with this here. So it's a very well timed question. If you're talking about a trace that's just going to be exposed to the elements, it's not going to have any component near it, you know, like what I'm describing here. So the big issue here is that I'm putting these tantalum capacitors on, and they have really wide pads on them, or pins on them. See here, see how wide they are? They're way wider than these pads. So if there is a trace really close to that pad, that really wide pin might end up actually accidentally touching that trace. If nothing is in danger of touching it, like another component touching it, no problem with leaving it tinned. I mean, the main thing you're wanting to do is you're wanting to protect the metal from, you know, sort of air. If you have just exposed copper on these boards, it will corrode. It will go green and it'll look ugly, and that's not what you want. Whereas if you tin it, if you coat it with a bit of solder, you protect it from that. And so, short answer is, as long as it's not in danger of coming in contact with something, yes, you can just coat it with solder. So there you go. That's my answer. Just trying to move along here at a reasonable pace because, as I mentioned before, I have other things to do today. I will be back in the workshop later today, and I may even decide to stream some of the stuff that I do here. This particular stream does have to end at a particular time due to other commitments. I would have liked to have got started a little earlier today, but I had a fairly big night last night, and so I had a bit of a sleep in. After all, it was Saturday night last night, and it is Sunday. Sunday is the time for sleeping in. Oh, GT, thank you very much. If you really want his attention, send one of these. Yes, that's very true. Nothing gets my attention like a super chat or a super sticker. So, thank you very much, DT. I do appreciate that. Oh, Dana, look at that. Thank you very much. Okay, does that mean I have to go and look for questions in here? Okay, you said you would stream. Now you say you may stream. Now, look, I really do think I will do another stream later today. And I apologize for my US friends. It will probably end up being too late for you guys unless you are real night owls. This is, or actually, having said that, I might leave it late enough so that you can get up the next day and watch it when we're on the same day. I need more caps. I need more caps. Oh, Jay, thank you very much. Listen, look at all of these super chats and stuff coming at me. Okay, so all right, I'm getting the pressure now. I'm getting the pressure to do more streams today. I've got good stuff to stream. People send me interesting things to do. I think what's actually happened these days is that now that a lot of my customers, potentially see my streams, and they then go, oh, I'll send this to you, and hopefully he'll stream it. And I do often. I mean, if it's something fairly dull, I often don't. I don't. But if it's something that I think is interesting, it might have some interest for people to watch, I'll generally stream it. When I'm putting these caps on, I am fairly meticulous about getting them straight. There's nothing worse than looking back at a board after it's been recapped and seeing a crooked cap on there. It just messes with the OCD, I mean, everything else on the board is symmetrical and in line and parallel and all that sort of stuff. And then you just have this one wonky one. Oz Retrocomp, thank you very much. Boy, the generosity today is absolutely fantastic, and I thank you all. Wonderful, wonderful. Good entertainment value. Well, thank you very much for saying so. I do try and be entertaining. I'll try not to sing or do any of my lousy impersonations in the future, but as much as possible, I do try and provide at least enough interest for people to hang on, at least for more than a few minutes. Let's just go in and have a quick look at what we're looking at here. I'm currently sitting on 28 concurrent viewers. So, again, thank you for the 28 people that are hanging on, sticking around for this. Come on, flip over. When I'm in a situation here like this where the stenciling is kind of, this screen printing has come away a bit, and I'm not sure necessarily which is positive and which is negative. Well, I have my cheat sheet to tell me, but the other way I can tell is by this little beveled edge you see on the screen printing. That beveled edge always indicates where the positive is, so I know the positive is on this side. Another way is that huge amount of copper there is almost definitely a ground plane. So that would suggest to me that that's the negative side. Now, I did sort of talk about these exposed traces. Here I don't need to worry too much about it because they're all going, even if I get some solder onto this little bit of trace here, it joins up. And same with this, if I get solder onto this large area here, it joins up with that pad. So I really don't have to worry too much about that one. Okay. We're getting through them. Yes, we are. Okay. Look at that one. Okay. All right. Okay, so just looking back at all these super chats, I do have to say thank you to everyone for those. I do appreciate it. Yes, Steve has just gone eep because that's what he does when he gets super chats, but I can't do that because there's a copyright on that. Yeah, I know. I do need a super chat response. I mean, I was saying before, what I should do is just when I get a super chat, read out the name of one of our ridiculous locality names, because we have some very unusual named cities and towns in this country, and I thought I could do that, but I don't know. It's sort of, when I tried it out, it actually seemed pretty stupid. So I didn't do that. Okay, so these two here. No issue with those. I can replace the caps on those. I've got no problem with that. But the other two, I want to get some UV mask on before I put the component on, because I've got a lot of exposed traces that are not necessarily what I want there. Tip was called again, Bruce. This, are you talking about the bent one or the one that I use? So just if you can confirm, you know, which that tip, when you say that, what was that tip called? If you're talking about this sort of bendy one here, I've got no idea what they're called. Conical is pointy, but this is a conical with a bend in it. So this, if you wanted to look it up, is a T12JL02. If you did a search for T12JL02, you are almost definitely going to end up looking at the Hacko website with a little line illustration of what that tip is. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, GT, you go and have some fun cleaning on a Saturday night. I can relate. And I will keep going and doing what I'm doing, but I promise not to ask you any questions directly, because you'll be cleaning and I don't want to cause disruptions. Okay, so just a reminder to everyone, a lot of these people that I chat to, that I talk to, or call out to during the live stream in the chat, are my fellow Mac Yackers. Mac Yak being a weekly show where a group of people, including me, get together and talk about Mac-related stuff and Apple-related stuff. We talk about technology, we talk about Mac culture, we talk about rumors, we talk about you know, sort of future releases, flaws, problems, security issues, you know, you name it, everything sort of Mackie we yak about. And we only do it once a week, so jump onto the Mac Yak YouTube channel or onto the Mac Yak website. Jump on and subscribe. Keep in mind that Mac Yak does currently have a giveaway that is going to happen once we reach 1,000 subscribers. And so jump on, watch episode number 69 to find out how to enter the competition to potentially win a white MacBook. 2007, if I remember rightly. 2007 model MacBook in very, very good condition, I might add. So these are these ones where I've got these exposed traces, and I don't like them exposed this close to a pad there. A little bit of solder works its way and creates a little bridge or something like that. I am going to paint these with UV solder mask and then dry them. Now, I will paint them in this live stream, but I won't dry them in this live stream. 2008 MacBook, there we go. Being given away, that is. I will paint them with the UV solder mask, and then quite a sunny day out there, I can hopefully sit this in the sun and let the UV mask dry before I then put those components on. But I probably won't get time to do that today, because I'm now down to 11 minutes. And I've just heard someone heading down to my shed at the moment from the house. I dare say it'll be my wife, and she is possibly going to come in and tell me that he's already here. No? No. Good. Phew. I'm fine, thanks. Then my wife comes down and offers me a drink. Isn't that nice of her? Okay. Right. Sorry, focus going out there a little bit. Bent conical are the only good conical. I would have to agree with that. And once again, I don't want to necessarily criticize anyone's soldering iron tip choices, because it is a personal thing. You work with what you like to work with. But in my opinion, if I'm going to work with a conical, I want it to be a bent conical. It gives me that extra surface area to apply the heat. The most important thing with a soldering iron tip is to get the heat where you need it. And conical tips, in my opinion, are not very good at that. So they seem like the obvious choice. And of course, given the fact that so many soldering irons come with a conical tip as standard, I find it really frustrating because I just don't think there might be a good tip for doing a bit of wire repair or something like that, but not for doing this sort of soldering. Really, that's my opinion. Take this stream to the garage with me while I throw some darts. Jay, I hope you're getting good at those darts, mate. I used to have a dartboard here once upon a time. Hello, Mrs. Brankus. On an unrelated note, where's Bernadette at today? She is out mingling with the other chickens, I dare say. She's not wandering around here. I'm sort of trying to encourage her or discourage her from coming near or in this shed. You know, in the early days when she was a little tiny one, it was kind of fine, but you know, as she gets a little bit bigger, I just worry about her coming in here and potentially walking on, if I accidentally leave the door open, walking on something like that. So, okay, so here is one where we've got an exposed trace here, but I don't think that's going to get in the way of the capacitor. So we'll put this capacitor down. Lots of capacitors in this, aren't there? Yeah, micro major repair, I agree with you 100% on that. 100%. That in particular with some soldering irons where the only tip you have an option for is a conical tip. I just don't like them. I just don't feel like they get the heat where you want it. And in particular, if you're talking about a beginner, if you're talking about someone that's saying, oh, I want to get started with soldering, and they've only got an option to go out and buy a relatively inexpensive soldering iron. They can't go out and spend, you know, hundreds of dollars on a Hacko or a Weller or something like that. So they are then, you know, they go and get a cheapie, and it only comes with a conical tip, and it's actually making the soldering job harder for them. Very frustrating. Right, I've got to have a quick look here because, as I said before, there are capacitors just literally all over this board. And I just want to make sure that I've looked at all of the ones that I am planning to do before I start UV solder masking. So as far as I can see, I'll get my cheat sheet once again, and we'll have a look at this that way around. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes. No, but that one needs mask. Yes. Yeah, yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, no, no. Yes. I think that's it. So I've basically got I've got three more capacitors that I want to put on, but I really do want to put a bit of UV solder mask on these before I do them. So I'm going to paint that on now, and then I'll probably end the stream because I am running desperately short on time. Before I get the UV mask on there, I want to make sure that the surface is nice and clean, which I did for this one. And then I'm going to grab my UV solder mask. I keep it in a little metal tin. It needs to be protected from light, obviously, because you know, if it gets UV on it, it cures and becomes a solid lump. So I'm just going to paint this on with a very, very fine toothbrush, and I'm basically just looking to coat this exposed trace so that he has some protection. I want to make the coating reasonably thick, but not too thick. If you go too thick on these, it doesn't dry properly. It dries a crust on the outside and doesn't dry underneath it. And then you know, you can just push that crust in and all the leaky stuff comes out. If you need to build up a really thick coating of this stuff, the best thing to do is do it in multiple coats. You do multiple thin coats. Okay, they're looking good to me. Don't put a flux capacitor in there. No, definitely don't. Not a good idea. Jeff Barnard, hello. All right, so that's those two, and then I've got one over here which I really want to mask out. And once again, I just got to clean all this flux off. I got flux on there because I was going to stick a cap on it, and then I changed my mind once I saw the state of these traces. This one is a really major candidate for potentially ending up with an accidental short, so make sure this one's well painted. Grabbed rather a lot then, didn't I? A little bit thick there, a little bit thick. I do have a UV globe for curing this stuff, which the lamp broke the other day. The globe's still okay, but the lamp broke, so I'm going to have to go get a new lamp. It's one of those ones on an articulated arm, so I can just move it wherever I want, and it just snapped off. Not happy. So, yes, I will be having to get a new lamp. But today, as I mentioned before, we've still got a fair bit of sun out there, so I might just put this one out in the sun and let the sun shine down its UV onto it. Just want to expose this pad a little bit. It doesn't really matter, but you know, I'm a stickler. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a count again. I do apologise, but I just feel like I've missed one, and I don't want to rob anyone. I don't want to cheat people out of you know, seeing capacitors that they came here expecting to see replaced and then not see them. Okay, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and there are 3 I haven't done, so that's 15. So that number all matches up. Okay, so let's just look at wrapping this up. As I say, I would have loved to have kept going. I do apologise I have to go now, but I do have prior commitments that I need to be ready for. So thank you everyone for joining and watching me. This 840AV, I am going to wait for this UV solder mask to dry. I will put those final 3 capacitors on. I will then give this a really good, thorough ultrasonic clean, and then I'm going to go in and inspect it a little bit more because, well, to be quite honest, there's some real ugliness on the board. I want to make sure that the cleaning gets all that off, and I want to make sure that, you know, that I'm going to be essentially sending a board back that's got a high likelihood of working. If I do find some way of testing this myself, I will, and I will, you know, either do another stream or post results on my Brankus Creations Facebook page. I do regularly do posts on that page about the results of my live streams, and sometimes I forget. I forgot to do the post of the Omega 600. I do apologise. But I would like to say thank you to everyone for joining. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who did the super chats. It's really appreciated. I will be streaming almost definitely be streaming later today, as I have a little bit more to do, and I figure I may as well stream it while I'm doing it. But I'm going to go duck off now and replace the battery in an iPhone, and I will maybe see some of you later on today. If not, I will hopefully see you at the next stream. So once again, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for persevering. I do appreciate it. And I will see you at the next one. So thank you all and goodbye.